It is 1920. The lovely French passenger ship and cargo transport SS Afrique is sailing on her 58th voyage. This is a proud achievement for any vessel. Many ships don't get careers as long as her. She was launched way back in 1907, and here, over 10 years later, her bow still proudly cuts through the water, leaving behind a long wake. The weather, however, is not ideal, and the SS Afrique is battling her way through a gale which threatens to swallow her whole and make her vanish mysteriously. One wave too many could send this ship rolling over before anyone could do anything. It would perhaps be a fate not unlike that of the SS Waratah 11 years before, when she was lost in very similar conditions. It is just before midnight, and the SS Afrique plows on. She sails into the gloom, and her lights are lost to sight amid the waves. The exact details of what happened next are scarce, but what we know is she will not live to see the morning. SS Afrique was a steamship that began service in 1907, making trade runs between French territories in West Africa, French Equatorial Africa, and other colonies in the region. She displaced 5,404 gross registered tons. She was 390 feet long, and her beam was 48 feet. Her career was without notable incident for over 10 years, and during this time she carried cargo and passengers around Africa and to Europe and back again. What a sight she must have been sailing by, smoke proudly gushing out from her single funnel. On the morning of January 10th, 1920, the Afrique would set off on the voyage where she would not just sail to her next destination, but rather sail into history. She was en route to Dakar and then some other ports along the French west coast. The total number of passengers on board this trip was unclear for years, and this was due to a large number of African soldiers and workers being carried in her third-class accommodations. However, we know today that there were 609 passengers on board, 106 first-class passengers, 67 second-class, 81 third-class. Her crew, meanwhile, consisted of another 158 people. All these people and her crew were on board when the SS Afrique was sailing straight into a sudden storm some 50 miles from the Bay of Biscay off the French coast. And just before midnight that night, the SS Afrique suddenly lost all power. The gale had beaten her. She continued forward on her own momentum as her lights snapped out. Inside, anyone awake would have immediately been confused as to what was happening. Deep down within her belly, her crew frantically worked to relight the fire and restore power, but it was not meant to be. Suddenly, many are thrown to the floor as a terrific shock shakes the ship. In the total darkness, some would not have known what happened until they felt the water rising around their ankles. The SS Afrique has smashed into a reef and her hull is beginning to tear itself apart. The ship is sinking. She managed to cling on for 3 hours after losing power, her SOS desperately being sent out from her wireless set's backup power. When it went silent, all the power was gone. The wireless operator abandoned his post after manning it to the very end, and the ship sank. It is likely many were never able to get out, and those who did were washed away in the storm. We'll never know exactly what happened on the ship that night because of the 609 passengers, 158 crew, there were 34 survivors. Only one of them was a passenger. Everyone else was lost with the ship on that stormy night. The ship was simply too battered and broken to survive the damage she'd taken. And once she plunged down, she went down so fast that, from as far as I can tell, no one who survived actually saw her sink. They lost sight of her among the huge waves, and when they looked back, she was gone. Those rescued reported that the liner Gale, who had been on standby after coming to the ship's aid during the worst of the storm, and was there when she struck the reef, undertook a desperate search in the dark, stormy waves for the survivors on the lifeboats. She found only a few, and the ship was gone. Come daylight, they found no sign of her. The SS Afrique had sunk unseen in the darkness. Exactly how long it took after the collision for the ship to sink does not seem to be known, but it seems to have been fast. Those who survived said that they'd been plunged into darkness when the ship's dynamos failed, and the crash shook them terrifically, shaking the ship itself as her belly was torn open. With the power out, the wireless operators could only get just enough power to call for help, and they did it. The lifeboats could not be launched due to the huge waves battering the ship and those on board. The last message the Jalon, who had gone on ahead initially and was unaware of the unfolding disaster behind them, was, "We cannot keep afloat until dawn. We are abandoning ship." She came back and saved those that she could, but the Afrique was already gone with most of her passengers. Today, they and their ship rest on the bottom of the ocean. The wreck is in good condition, sitting upright on the ocean floor, accessible to divers, and the site has excellent conditions for observing her if you dive down to her. The water is clear, and the pictures of the wreck are good. Her captain is among those who now rest with her on the ocean floor. Pictures of the wreck, while the ones I've seen are good, seem to be few and far between, but I know I'd be fascinated to get a full look at it and see exactly what the damage that doomed her was like and where. I know all that is left of the story today is a wreck, no voice on the ocean floor, but as this video ends, I want you, in your homework today, to ponder this. You are safely watching this video over 100 years later, but just because this was long ago doesn't mean that these people weren't as unique as each and every one of us today. What if you had been born earlier and you were among those on board? Imagine waking up to total darkness and that crash. It puts how lucky we are in perspective that we weren't there, and it lets us understand those better who unfortunately were and died there.